In This Week in Military History, we explore Operation Michael, part of the German Spring Offensive on the Western Front during World War I. The aim of Operation Michael was to divide the British and French armies in a swift fashion, employing both new tactics and techniques. The trench deadlock that had bedeviled the armies on both sides from 1914 was effectively broken for the first time by the Germans. Their innovative use of Stormtroopers, drawn from their very best men, were trained to infiltrate swiftly through the Allied lines, bypassing strong points and moving into the rear areas quickly, and advancing under the cover of creeping artillery barrages. They would demonstrate great effectiveness early on, but ran out of ammunition and momentum when following German units could not match their pace. The initial German target of the offensive was British forces north of the Somme River in France, between the cities of Arras and La Fère. The operation began with 5 hours of continuous bombardment, employing 3.5 million shells from more than 9,000 pieces of German artillery. By March 22nd, the British Fifth Army was in full retreat and had lost communication with French forces to the south. While the Germans shelled Paris from a distance of some 80 miles, they soon overstretched their own supply lines and their attacks lost momentum, German troops becoming exhausted while the French were able to knock out artillery pieces shelling Paris. The thrust of the German advance was checked by the Allies, who had assembled new troops east of Amiens by March 28th. US reinforcements were also dispatched to Paris. While Operation Michael was partially successful, the Germans gaining more territory and forward momentum than any force since the opening months of the conflict, ultimately the Allies' greater reserves made the difference, and the Germans too found that victory still favoured the defence. Germany's last gamble to win the war failed. The German Spring Offensive would include 3 more operations in their attempt to defeat the British and French forces. Paradoxically, the German tactics of all-arms integration and infiltration was copied by the British, who chose to train all units, not just elite troops, in such methods and use them against the Germans with devastating effectiveness in subsequent campaigns. Join us next time for another segment of This Week in Military History with the Pritzker Military Museum and Library.